The days of hug a thug are over. I'm not going to tolerate that in our county. I'm not going to tolerate unprofessionalism. Just because you're a gang member doesn't mean I'm going to be disrespectful to you. But it does mean that I'm going to enforce the laws here in the great state of Georgia that the legislation has passed. I worked for a few different law enforcement agencies since I've been here. I've attended school since I've been here. I'm also a certified firefighter. So I knew that at some point in the future, I wanted to become a department head. And that department head I want to become is the sheriff of Henry County.
Why would you be interested in running, particularly for the sheriff of Henry County? We just elected a new sheriff.
I understand that you've just elected a new sheriff, but the new sheriff is not taking the visions of the taxpayers or those that I think that would want the sheriff's department ran a certain way. I think the sheriff's department is lacking transparency in many of its ways, and I feel that there's progress that's lacking with the sheriff's department.
But you can't just say that the sheriff's department is lacking transparency unless you have information or proof of that.
I understand that, but also you have to realize I work in law enforcement as well, and I can see things that are wrong with the agency. I feel that it's been more of a publicity show than it has been a professional law enforcement agency. And I just believe that if it was ran a different way, the taxpayers would be getting more for their bang or their buck.
So what things do you think need to be improved with the sheriff's department?
Number one item that needs to be corrected at the sheriff's department is the attrition. I feel that we need to have a progressive hiring position, and that there needs to be a fulfillment of the empty slots. To my understanding, there's more than 100 positions that have been vacated since the sheriff has taken office, and it doesn't appear to be anything to be done about that. That leads me into safety issues that I speak to fellow officers about what's going on at that jail. From safety issues to the courts, to the warrants, to working with other law enforcement agencies in surrounding areas.
You're a law enforcement veteran. Why do you think so many people have given up and have left the office?
Well, at the end of the day, the buck stops with who's ever at the top. And sometimes when you get to the top, you forget what it's like to be at the bottom. If leadership was changed, policies would be changed, people would change, and people are going to mimic those who are at the top.
Well, if people leave, it shouldn't be very difficult to fill those positions. There are a lot of young people that would love to be in law enforcement and a lot of people that would be interested in working for the Henry County Sheriff's Department. Have you seen that to be an issue?
What I have seen is some people don't want to work where the policies are the way they are at the Henry County Sheriff's Office.
You said the policies?
The policies, yes, sir.
Okay.
The policies are the everyday MOD, or their method of operation. A lot of people want to see progressive law enforcement. They want to see proactive law enforcement. Just because you're the sheriff's department doesn't mean that you cannot address any of the issues in the community. Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for the entire county, not just the jail.
How would you work with the Henry County Police Department to improve public safety?
Well, if I was elected sheriff during my transitional time, I would meet with all the police chiefs from the municipalities, and we would sit and we would come to an agreement on how things should be ran with the other ones, how we can liaison with each other, how I can help them. I would deputize their officers. There is no reason why a police officer should not be able to take action because he's from a jurisdiction. The certificate says state of Georgia. It does not say any local municipality or Henry County.
There was just a presentation a couple of weeks ago saying that they're seeking another $20 million when the budget was just approved 2 months ago.
That's a lot of money. But I do know how to contact the correct people that will assist me in making sound, logical decisions. I believe in ensuring that the taxpayers are getting what they paid for. And if there's a budget that's $33 million and you're asking for another $17 to $20 million, that's a 50% rate jump. So on day one, I would ask for an audit of my agency, and I would see where the trims need to be done and there would be no waste. I'd also make decisions as a command staff and then ultimately be the one that says yes or no on pushing the button. I don't think that one person can make decisions like that when it comes to that amount of money, especially when it's not yours, it's the taxpayers. Sometimes you have to make cuts. Sometimes you have to make cuts to balance your books. And if you're coming back to the commission 2 months after you've received $33 million, clearly there is a sense or action of irresponsibility, or you just don't have it in you to do what's right.
Well, I think that you have, in any leadership position,
Yes, sir.
I think that you have to have some sort of business sense.
Correct.
Because this is a terrible economy.
Yes, it is.
We've had 2 to 3 negative quarters of GDP growth,
Understood.
which is a recession.
Yes, sir.
Inflation is at an all-time high. I think over 50, 60 years. It's the highest rate ever. And so I think as a leader, especially when you're managing taxpayers' dollars, you need to be cognizant of spending.
Yes, sir.
At this particular time. It's not a great economy, and many people think that we are in a bubble and that things are going to crash.
Correct.
So I don't know if I would have been asking for $17 to $20 million in this particular environment, nor do I think I would be purchasing property or anything like that if I had, if that was my decision to make.
As a taxpayer, I'd ask, what were the funds allocated for? And what was the previous budget in the past 5 years? What are we doing differently that we couldn't do last year? Why do we need such an increase? An increase is okay, but if you're getting an increase for waste and projects that are outside of law enforcement or the jails or the courts, because as a constitutional officer here in the great state of Georgia, all I care about is that sheriff's office and where those monies are going and how those taxpayers perceive my office to be. And it's not my office, it's our office. Just as my campaign is our campaign. I'm not this smart person that's just going to come out there and, oh, it's my way or no way. It's our agency. And it reflects on those all the way around us. And we need to have great partnerships with the local, state, and federal agencies as well.
Can you speak to any of those policies?
There are some things that I would do differently. There would not be no television show inside my jail.
And the television show you're speaking about is?
That would be 60 days in.
Okay.
And I understand you need to have transparency and you need to relate with the public. I understand that.
So why wouldn't you allow a television show to be in your jail?
Well, you don't have the manpower to man the jail on any other day, and then you call in other deputies to man the jail to give the optics that you're a fully staffed jail. That's not being honest with the people. So I would not do that. When that jail's not fully staffed, that's safety issues. What if your son or your wife or your child was in there working as a detention officer, outmanned 30, 40, 50 to 1? Does it mean you can't do something that's going to help cover the loss of employees until we get our employment levels back the way they should be? That's the number one thing, is safety. I cannot protect you if I can't protect my own employees.
So what would be your actual plan for the jail?
Well, I have a plan right now that I've put together that once we get the audit done in the transitional session, if I were to be elected, that the people that I have surrounding me, we're going to sit down, go line by line with each item, with all the contractors, and reassess. Recruiting is going to be a number one goal. Once the recruiting's done and our levels of staffing levels are back up, we can most likely run a jail the safe way it should be ran. I'm a cop's cop. I've worked the streets, I've worked narcotics, I've worked traffic, I've worked honor guard, I've worked patrol. So I'm a cop. I haven't spent majority of my life working inside of a jail as an administrator. Not taking that away from anyone, but you do not understand how these officers feel. Morale needs to be high. When the morale's high, you get a better product of your officer or your deputy.